Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Makeup is Hard podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for coming back. My name is Weenie, and I am a retired, semi-retired television and film makeup artist. I also did hair. I've done apprenticeships at salons, so I've been behind the chair. I've done kind of everything in this industry could offer. And this is the Makeup is Hard podcast, where you submit stories to our Reddit forum giving advice to your younger self. How is the job hard? Or maybe you need some advice. Maybe you're in a difficult situation at work and there's an entire forum of professionals letting you know what you can do in that situation. I would love to take this podcast also in that direction because this is not all doom and gloom. This is not like, oh my God, this job is terrible. Don't do it. I would never tell you to do that. But I will be your big sister in the situation and warn you that this stuff is going on. But if you need advice, you want to hear my opinion on a certain situation that you're on set, drop that in the Reddit forum. Drop it in my DMs. We can be found at all of these places. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you got your socials. We're there too. So if you want to send me a DM, it's at Makeup is Hard Podcast. All one word. Today's episode, we're going to kind of take a step back and talk about the TV and film industry. That's where I come from. That's kind of like the birth of this podcast and the origin of this podcast. But the Reddit forum and Reddit stories don't necessarily have to come from TV and film. It could come from the salon. It can come from, any sort of beauty related industry job. But today we're going to concentrate on TV and film because the theme of today is hours. Hours. Weenie, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, let's get into it. We work ridiculous hours. Not only do we work ridiculous hours, we work long hours. And it's kind of funny because I feel like I got shielded a little bit because I had my first 10 years in independent productions before I joined the television industry. So I was in independent film for quite a while. And while we had hours, like we worked roughly 12, 13-hour days, that pales in comparison to the hours that you work on television. And upon digging up some stories, I have found that a common thread is the amount of hours that you work on set and how it can affect your work-life balance. If there is even a work-life balance to be had in working in the TV and film industry. So most of these stories are from hair and makeup. So what was your ridiculous hour story? I can drop a pretty decent one. I was working on a short film once upon a time back in the day, and I got the job as a favor, like just as a favor to a friend. Like, yeah, I got you covered. And it was an independent teaser trailer. So it wasn't a film, like it was just for, to get funding for the full length project. People will raise money to shoot like little teasers. And then once they have, a visual concept, they say, hey, investors, do you want to give us money to do this full length script? So the project had quite a bit of special effects, and which was fine, but the person, it was earlier in my career and it was before I had done a ton of special effects training. So I had gone to makeup school and I learned a little bit about maybe special effects application. That was it. I didn't go, like I went back to school for advanced special effects. And this project was, I don't know, 4 minutes long. 4 minutes long. Yeah. And we were there for, I left. I had to. We were shooting approximately 2 hours away from my house. I had to self-report and I had to do all of these tattoo applications and scar applications, and it took me forever because I wasn't well versed in it. And the person that gave me the job was like, it's just a couple of scars, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like, he was covered in fake tattoos, and the production had had all of the prosthetics. So I had no idea what I was in for. I had to call it quits after 17 and a half hours. I'm pretty sure I got there at 5 or 5:30, and he was in makeup for probably 3 hours, which is way longer than I normally take when it comes to an individual person. This isn't like a creature suit application that like you have 4 or 5 people. You like it should not have taken me that long, and I fully get that. So I left at 11:30 at night, and I was getting paid $200 to do this, and they sprung so many things on me that I was not aware of. They wanted me to make a dead head, and a dead head is basically a cast of a person's head, and it has a rod in it, and it's made out of silicone, and it is basically it's basically a replica of somebody's head severed, and you paint the bottom, you create all the little nernies, and you punch hair in it, and you make it look like the actual person as much as possible. So they were like, we want a dead head. Here's a styrofoam head. What? What? They're like, can you just paint it? Can you just paint it? And a lot of special effects makeup, most special effects makeups are alcohol based, and alcohol based paints are very, very thin, and they're meant to be very, very thin. And they're meant to be painted in washes. Definitely not nowhere near opaque enough to paint a white styrofoam wig block type of head. And this person just kept shooting shot way more than anyone would ever need for the editing floor. And I was there, I think, for 17 and a half hours. And I had to drive home that day, which was another 2 hours. It was crazy. But I was very, very, very young, and I did not know when to establish that boundary and say, I have to go. I can't do this anymore. And I wasn't the first to walk. Audio, the sound guy was the first to walk. He was like, I can't do this. You're shooting way, 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 way too much. This is insane. And I was like, I'm gonna follow his lead because I have to go home. I need sleep. I don't want to crash. So that is my crazy story on set, and that was probably the only thing that I encountered really as far as like abusive work hours in the independent film industry. I've done other projects, but those were passion projects, and it was different. But man, oh man, when I got into the TV industry, holy shit, almost every day was really, really, really long. 12 minimum. Usually 13, 14 if you're an additional. If you are in trailer, grab a sleeping bag. You might as well be sleeping in the trailer for 6 hours before you have to come back and do it again. It's crazy. The amount of people that work obscene amount of hours when they are department heading a film or in the trailer, by that matter. I was just an additional, which is, the people that just get brought on board to do lots of background. But if they're shooting background at the end of the day, like you are there for a long time. And the penalty of being there 13, 14, 15 hours a day is that you get paid more money, which is cool. We all love money, right? Great. But you have no time to spend it. So there's that. So I've compiled a couple of stories that have to do with let's get started, shall we? I'm a special effects makeup artist on a 2.5-month shoot I'm on now. Most, if not all days, my crew and I have 4-hour pre-calls on the 13-hour days, 6 days a week, as it is apparently the norm in the country that I'm working in. Several days, we have 8 hours of work to do before shooting, given how few of us there are. As department head, I brought up the issues with this schedule to production. Their justification is that we can take turns who's on set and people can take quick naps throughout the day, which I know is a luxury no other department would be afforded. But on days when we have 35 people in full prosthetics in a 109-degree desert, we need all hands on deck to keep those maintained, and they refuse to give me a bigger team. Not to mention the hours and hours of removals after wrap. Far from the first time I've been given hours like this. Production doesn't seem the least bit concerned that my department has multiple 20+ hour days. I always try to wrap my team early and give them breaks, but I'm just not sure how feasible that is with our workload. The overtime pay is laughable compared to how shit we all feel by the end of the week. week. On this job, I have a feeling that most of the crew will be too spent and walk within the first few weeks. This is most likely a majors contract in the film industry. So like a Guardians of the Galaxy, like a big production, or it's television. You don't have too many TV shows that have major prosthetics, but let's break this down. 2.5 months shoot. It's a film. TV shows take much longer to film than 2.5 months. 4-hour pre-calls and 13-hour days. 4-hour pre-call. I'm going to assume there was either multiple people in prosthetics or one creature suit. That sounds about right. 35 people in full prosthetics, so that's background, and 109-degree desert. You have to prepare for the weather. And when it comes to prosthetics, sweat is the enemy. Full stop. You are fighting against oil and sweat when you have someone who is wearing a prosthetic. Next one down is probably stunts. Like if you have somebody that's covered in prosthetics and like they're doing a lot of stunt work, moving, fighting, movement, sharp movement. That can get real hairy like really quickly. But this sounds like it could have been both. It could have been a creature suit and a lot of people in prosthetics. And what does production say? You can take a nap, right? You can take a nap in the middle of the day. And it's wild to me. It's wild to me that this is a problem across multiple departments. And this OP is like, I understand that not everyone has this luxury. What? What? It's not taking a nap in the middle of your day and taking shifts. Just hire more people. And what a lot of people don't understand is, yes, it takes a long time to get these prosthetics on these people. However, and that's another reason why people in the makeup department that work background are kept all day long so they could remove prosthetics. It takes, granted, not the same amount of time as application, but it takes a long time to remove prosthetics. It is glued with a glue called Prozade, and Prozade is a medical grade adhesive, or something along the lines of a silicone grade double contact adhesive, which again takes forever to remove. Because could you theoretically kind of, yeah, but you don't want the actor ripping their skin off. And I have been there when they have said, I'm not sitting for this, and they rip the top layers of their skin. If you are working on a production like this one, and there you have people day in, when you have shoots like this, you don't want the actors removing it themselves, because if they are in prosthetics day in and day out, you have to maintain the integrity of the skin. You have to, full stop. And it takes sometimes upwards of an hour to remove large prosthetics. This problem would be alleviated if people were hired. That way people could come in shifts during a later shift. And I've heard of that happening, but it's not hugely common. It's not hugely common. So like 20-hour work days, that's insane. That's crazy. That's pushing it. Like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Are you even driving home? Are you just sleeping in the trailer? I mean, I know I said that, tongue in cheek earlier, but like that could be a reality for this OP. And yeah, the overtime pay is laughable compared to how absolute dehydrated and trashy you feel by the end of the week. Because something else that what a lot of people don't know about when it comes to production is that you have a thing that is known as Friday. You start shooting on Monday at 7 a.m. and then you'll shoot for 12 hours. It'll be 13, 14 for hair, makeup, and wardrobe because they have to get there earlier. And then the next day they will, because other departments have to either load out or reset for the next day. The next day you will start at 8 a.m. And then the next day you will start at 9 a.m. Or sometimes scheduling, if they want to do a night shoot, they'll do what is called a split, where you have to be there at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then by the time everyone is on set and ready, the sun is just going down. And then you are there until 6, 7 o'clock in the morning in the same week that you had to get up at 7 a.m. earlier to get there. So like 5:30. You by Friday are wrapping at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. So Friday bleeds into Saturday, and the term is called Fraturday. And because Fraturdays are a thing and they're totally legal and they happen all of the time, you don't get a full 48 hours rest over the weekend. And it's really excruciatingly hard on your body. The dehydration, the muscle spasms, the tiredness, the falling asleep at the wheel. Like it's really, really, really hard. So with this next story, there's a couple of acronyms that need to be established. AD is an assistant director, and they're basically the time managers on set. And they basically tell everyone to hurry up. Shout out to all the good ADs out there. We love you. G&E is grip and electric. They basically power the set, move all of the lights. So with that out of the way, let's get into this next story. Makeup department here. You know, with the crazy pre-calls on top of the long days, in all of my time in the union, I've only had one department head stand up to the ADs and tell them, no, we will not come in at 3:30 in the morning. No one will be in the makeup chair till after 5 a.m. And guess what? Everyone still got done in time or finished after rehearsal when the rest of the crew sets up. Often we have these crazy pre-calls and then we are doing nothing for hours waiting for set to be ready. So much of our time is spent waiting, and then they blame their day going bad on last looks, hair and makeup. When you bring your actors hours before they were needed, more often than not, they will fall asleep in their trailer, ruining their hair and makeup and have to be redone before they step on set anyway. There are ways to stop the crazy pre-calls and to work more efficiently. We deserve to be treated with the same respect ADs give camera and G&E departments. So we have a little bit of an issue when it comes to hair, makeup, and wardrobe. They are seen as, which is kind of funny because it's not true. Historically, definitely it's not true. Hair, makeup, and wardrobe are seen as female departments, which historically, abundantly not true. Makeup is very much still, and it's changing. It's changing. Certain parts of the department are changing, but the makeup department is, and historically has been, always run by men. Always. In the TV and film industry. I'm not talking about beauty. I'm not talking about fashion. That's very different. In TV and film, it's always been run by men. Most special effects houses are run by men. Most special effects artists are men. So when it comes to the representation to production, when hair, makeup, and wardrobe, they're seen as feminine jobs, and they are not given the due respect as an equal department compared to camera. The camera department, and this is a hot take, whenever they ask for anything, 9.8 times out of 10, they get it. They get it. Hair, makeup, and wardrobe is often dismissed. It's kind of gross and it's very icky. We are constantly being, just sit over there and don't make disruptions. Don't make noise. I mean, the last episode with the costume department, when somebody passed away within the costume department, they wanted to have a day off so they could go to the funeral of the person who had passed, and it wasn't granted. It wasn't granted. If you don't know, that was a story from episode 2, the costume departments. If you want to go check that out, there's a whole playlist of every single episode. By all means, the costume episode is juicy. I'm just gonna leave it there. But all of the time, hair, makeup, and wardrobe is seen as feminine departments, and they're not taken seriously. And with that particular costuming story, the camera department needed a day off for something lighting related, and production gave it to them. I have been a part of so many sets where camera has gotten bent over backwards for with money, and the script calls for a lot of makeup and special effects, and I had to fight tooth and nail to get my budget justified and approved. We're talking $40,000 camera rentals on indie productions. Why? And you want a cadaver? No, that's not how any of this works. That's not how any of this works. And what's interesting is you could see that when it comes to TV shows, Walking Dead is a great example. Walking Dead had Greg Nicotero, the prosthetics supervisor of The Walking Dead, was an executive producer. So he made sure that makeup had ample budget in those first few seasons. And because of that, we got the reimagining of what we know as a modern day zombie, because they went so hard on the ingenuity of pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits of what makeup could do with puppeteering and animatronics. And they had the budget to do that because the lead makeup artist was an executive producer, and the show did nothing but benefit from that aspect. So if you want high quality work, you have to give these departments their due budgets. And maybe it would be really cool if some of these producers would research what it takes to bring these things to life. I have so many stories on unrealistic expectations. That could be a whole nother episode of unrealistic expectations that producers want you to pull out of your ass for no money. A dead body is going to cost you no less than $20,000, if not more. You could probably get it a little bit less if it was made out of latex, but that all depends on the shot. But research just a little bit of what things cost so you can give every department their due diligence so they are set up for success on giving you a beautiful product. That's all we want to do. That's all we want to do is give you a beautiful end product, because not only does it benefit you, it benefits our portfolios. We're not here trying to look bad. So we do have a couple comments on this story. Somebody says, sing it! I'm dealing with this on my show right now. An hour plus to set up, 30 seconds to clean up 9 casts who were shooting outside in a heat wave. While the AD screams, he's losing the light, meaning they're running out of sunlight. And yes, they do forget our pre-calls and don't realize that we've been there for hours before and could still be there well after wrap. Respect to the job goes a long way. That is all for now. Yeah, many people do not understand. They look at the call sheet and it says 7 a.m. call time. That is for general crew. And most of the time that means, not all of the time, but most of the time that means that a bulk of the crew has to be there at 7 a.m. and they get, their hours of sleep, and it's fine. Hair, makeup, and wardrobe collectively have to be there around roughly 2 hours before call time. Like your 7 a.m. call never means, say 7 a.m. for me. Never. Now I can hear the camera department yelling in my ear right now. Yeah, well, when we wrap, you get to go home. Yes. Yes. After wrap, hair and makeup, not wardrobe, get to leave. Wardrobe has to disrobe actors. Sometimes makeup has to take off prosthetics, and sometimes hair has to be like a wig has to be taken and prepped and stuff like that. But for the most part, camera department and art department, let's say, has to dismantle all of the things and put them in the truck. So they are there like a long time after wrap. So I hear you. Don't come for me. But we, hair, makeup, and wardrobe, have to be there every day early, no matter what. That never changes. Whereas camera department, art department, sometimes, they sometimes have the luxury of shooting in a studio or shooting in a location for multiple days. That way they can just leave their stuff, do a little packing, and leave. That is a possibility for them sometimes. But hair, makeup, and wardrobe every single day has to be early, 1 to 2 hours minimum every day. Another comment, I feel like a lot of times they forget HMU and costumes are pre-called. So when crew on their 12th hour, hair, makeup, and wardrobe are on hour 15 and we still have to clean up. So that's pulling like 17 hours regularly. Oh, G&E's chiming in. G&E and cameras chiming in. It's a little bit of a hot topic. It's a little bit of a hot topic. But I will maintain hair, makeup, and wardrobe has to do it every single day. Whereas there are some opportunities opportunities for camera and G&E to have the space. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Don't come for me. This next story has to do with the hair department and the concept of a weekend. So let's get into it. I'm a hairstylist on a new TV series. I love my job, but it's Friday night at midnight and I've been at work since 7 a.m. On Monday, I have a 4 a.m. call time again. I can't enjoy any kind of weekend because all I can think about is how to turn my body clock around ASAP so I'll be ready for work again. I don't want a hotel room or an Uber ride or a coffee cart at 1 a.m. Luckily, my show offers these things. I want to see my husband for a few minutes before he's in bed. I want to sleep more than 4 hours a night. I crave these things. During the contract negotiations a few years back, the amount of stories that came forward about how people just want a 12-hour day. 10 hours shooting, 12 total, meaning like hair, makeup, and wardrobe. And all people wanted to do was see their families before they went to sleep. And I can't even imagine for parents wanting to see their kids before their kids were asleep. Of course. And you do get some of these productions that are nice and they do pay for hotel rooms. You don't really get hotel rooms a ton in the independent feature market, but TV has a little bit more money. But you hear all of the time about how they don't want to spring for hotels. But in my experience, they've always, had the money to spring for a hotel. You don't want to sleep in a hotel bed. Who wants to sleep in a hotel bed? I want to sleep in that bed. That's my bed. I love my bed. I love my bed. Who doesn't want to sleep in their bed? Like it begs the question of what are we doing? What are we doing here? Another thing that kind of irks me is that production will turn around and treat the crew. And they think that they're, really going above and beyond. But what it actually is compensating for utter complete exhaustion. Like renting an ice cream truck at the end of the day for people to have their moods elevated just a little while they're on pushing hour 16, hour 17. Or coffee truck that makes lattes and like fancy stuff just so you can get caffeine to keep going during those last hours. And they think that that's enough. But if those contract negotiations taught me anything a couple of years back, people just want to be with their families. They want to be home. They want a little bit of a work-life balance. And time again, everyone says the same thing. They want a 12-hour workday for all crew members. That's it. And what would that require? More money on productions end because you would be shooting more days, a few more days, because things would stretch out. You couldn't be able to pack everything that you wanted to pack in a single day. It would be stretched out over 2 or, however many. But isn't crew members' happiness worth more than abuse and just working people to the bloody knuckle? Our last story has to do with pregnancy and working film hours. Oh boy, here we go. Anonymous. No worries, nobody will say a name here. I'm a union makeup artist, currently 8 months pregnant, and up until my 7th month, I was working full-time on a new show. The crew was lovely, and we had fun, but every day, being a pregnant person on set was a huge challenge. We were working sometimes 15 hours with 2 to 3 hour pre-calls, and then I'd have to drive home over an hour every single day. Not to mention, we were working outside every day during the hottest summer on record. Eventually, the days turned into mostly night shoots, and I was driving home well before sunrise over an hour every day. I felt like I was losing my mind from exhaustion. It was becoming very hard to find any joy in the job that I loved, but I felt like I couldn't complain and should be grateful to be working after not working for a year. And in this industry, as someone new to the union, I really didn't want to come off as weak. On top of the long drives and the long days, I had to cart around my equipment kit every day, up and down hills, in the heat. And why did everything have to be so far from one another? There was one day in the woods, of course, that I didn't think that I was going to make it up the hill to get off set without going into early labor. The following day, we were shooting outside on the hottest day, and again, we didn't have shelter. It was that day that I decided that I was no longer going to be working on set. After that, I needed to take a step back and stop working because I felt like I was harming myself and my pregnancy. I really wanted to continue working, but it was very much not possible anymore, especially during the summer months. I took a couple of jobs that were less than 8 hours every day. And honestly, even in my 7th month of pregnancy, as hard as it was bearable. And I didn't feel like I was killing myself trying to get the job done. I don't understand how this industry can function the way that it does with these terribly long days. As a pregnant person who still physically can work, I had to stop stop because the long days into nights under ridiculous conditions were making it near impossible to make it through the day. But it's something that I had to do. Congratulations on the pregnancy, mama. Oh, that's really sad. What's infuriating about this is that a lot of the time, like, we have, as hair and makeup specifically, we are our own union together, and we had to negotiate. I don't remember which cycle it was when we had to do this negotiating, but we had to negotiate for coverage, like to be covered on set. So if you're shooting outside, let's say, and you have the director, the script supervisor behind the main monitor, and a couple of other, big wigs, above the line kind of people, no matter where you are on set, there will be a tent that covers them. Last negotiating cycle, our union negotiated for a tent for hair and makeup that had power supplied to it. So in case we had to do something on the fly, we could do it under a tent. And we didn't win that demand. So still, to this day, hair, makeup, and wardrobe has to be out in the elements in chairs with no coverage. And when you are touching up an actor in between setups and they're in their director's chairs, sometimes in the direct sunlight, it's kind of hard. In the rain, you have to bring with you on set an umbrella. It is not provided for you. You have to consider like all of these things and prepare, which is something that we talked about on the last episode. But we have no coverage. I had a shoot where I had to fight tooth and nail for anything even remotely considered a luxury. We had many, many prosthetics on set for that shoot, and I had to fight for a tent so people could be able to touch them up in between shots. And on day one, there was no tent. There was no coverage. There was no nothing. We were shooting in the middle of the forest and in the middle of the summer, and where everyone gathered was the parking lot of this park. And one of our prosthetics was gelatin. And if you know anything about gelatin is extremely temperature volatile. Too cold, it gets really weird. And too hot, not even too hot. Barely over body temperature, gelatin will melt. I had a prosthetic that was going to be ingested and it melted. We had no coverage and it melted on the parking lot asphalt. We had no table. This was the first day of shooting. So everything's kind of chaotic on the first day of shooting, but the makeup department had nothing. They didn't have certain, like, even for like above the line director, script supervisor, they didn't even have comfort items for those people. It wasn't just me. I don't want to be like, I wanted this, I asked for this. No. No, like nobody had anything. The production was very ill prepared for day one. And my prosthetics that cost hundreds of dollars melted in the sun in real time. And it was very, 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 very much a wrench in the plans of that shoot day. But the end of that shoot day, we were moved and my department was moved twice, and all of my makeup artists were on set, and I had to move everyone, like an entire trailer worth of department to a new location. It was a mess. And production, that was a 17-hour day for me because I did not want my crew members that were a union. This was a non-union production. I didn't want my union crew members to not feel taken care of because they were doing me a favor. So I sent people home early and I took the brunt of the 17-hour workday. And it was crazy. It was wild. It was wild. That was a wild shoot. But that's all of the stories regarding long hours that we have today. And there are so many more where that came from. It is a pervasive problem in the industry. And I hope that you learned something today and had a glimpse. But having said that, that is everything that I have for you today. If you want to follow us, submit a story, have a question, here it is. The Makeup is Hard podcast on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Come on down. We'll be more than happy to have you. If you're curious as to what I'm wearing on my face, in the description of every video, there is a Linktree link in case you want to pick something up for yourself and treat yourself. Everything is in the Linktree description. So having said that, thank you so much for being here on this journey with me. Thank you so much for coming for episode 3, Long Hours of the Makeup is Hard podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are just getting started and the community is building, and it is a beautiful thing. I cannot wait to bring you stories from the Reddit forum. If you have a story that you want to share, please, please, please. Everything is anonymous. Absolutely everything is anonymous. So share your story on what advice you would give your younger self on how the job is hard. And it's not just makeup, not just hair. If you work in wardrobe, if you're a celebrity stylist, if you are an effect shop. So if you're looking for some advice, there are tons of professionals in the Reddit forum. Just post a question and we are happy to answer and give you advice on a little bit of a hard situation that you might find yourself on set or at work. We're all professionals here and we all know that makeup is hard. My name is Weenie. I just want to say thank you so much again for being here, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.
Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great, popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed.